and welcome to Quintessential Comics. I'm Alice Quinn, and this is a book club about comic books. Hurrah! Today we are talking about some Star Wars comics because it's May, and I was like, well, May the 4th be with you, and we should all just like hang out and talk about Star Wars comics. I thought this was a really good opportunity. A couple years ago, Disney bought Marvel. And also Disney owns Lucasfilm. So now they have like the rights to publish Star Wars comics and a comic publisher to do it. So all of the Star Wars comics stopped being made with Darkhorse and started being made with Marvel. And there was like 25 years or something of Star Wars comics at Darkhorse. So I thought it's a pretty cool opportunity a couple years down the road to look at some of the new Star Wars comics with Marvel and compare them to some of the old Star Wars comics with Darkhorse. And so we had a bunch of really interesting options up in the poll on our Facebook page. That's how we pick the comics we're going to read and discuss. And we are talking about the Han Solo comic and Knights of the Old Republic commencement that's collected in the Knights of the Old Republic Star Wars Omnibus. Joining me, I have lovely friends joining me today. I got Elijah.
Hello, everybody.
And Allison.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming.
It's going to be awesome, man. I'm so excited. And we've got all of you. Feel free to comment. And to the right of the video should be a chat box. You could say stuff. You don't have to, but you can. You can leave us a comment later if you disagree or if you have any other points that we didn't quite bring up. I want to start with the new stuff. I want to start with the Han Solo trade by Marjorie Liu with pencils by Mark Brooks, Dexter Vines, colors Sonia Black. Cover art by there's lots of cool people who worked on this book.
Yeah, that's a long list.
It's a long list of cool people that worked on this book. All right, Elijah, why don't you start us off?
So okay, I want to preface this here with I actually like a fair bit of what Marvel has been doing. I love what Kieran Gillian's been doing with Darth Vader. I love the Leia mini arc. My dad has said good things about the Lando arc. I did not enjoy the Han Solo arc pretty much at all. I found it to be one of the dullest, most paint-by-number stories I've ever read in the Star Wars universe. And I say this as a guy who read Star Wars, Darth Vader, and the Lost Command, and the Force Unleashed adaptations. The art's not bad, but it's not really spectacular.
I like the art. All right, sorry, keep going.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's not bad. It just, none of it really spoke to me. In the flight sequences, I didn't really feel like anything was happening. It's sort of like, there's lots of things happening here, and they're static, and it would look way more cool if it was animated. And the writing is just very predictable. And the problem with all these mini anthology things, even the Leia one, which I loved, is that unlike the Vader arc, they can't really do anything. They have to make it fit within the regular canon, so as a result, it has to be this very, very safe story. Yeah, you can see Alice has the art up right now, and it's not bad. And they occasionally try to sneak in a hint, like they somehow managed to get Raftars to come up again, because they keep still trying to make that be a thing. And there's one or two references to stuff that was actually from the old expanded universe even, but overall, the most I actually got from it was the little dialogue boxes of Han Solo talking to himself. Those little bits right there when he would just, be discussing his actual thought process, and you're seeing his here, because the story itself doesn't really demonstrate that. We're told how he's developing. We're told. They're telling, not showing, and that bothers me as a writer, and I wanted to like it because I want there to be some good stuff that fleshes out Han Solo. There really needs to be more of that, but they don't really do it. And Leia is really kind of weird in this one because they highlight her on the cover of the first issue like she's going to be this big deal, and she's not. They actually seem to go out of their way to distance her from it, and it keeps feeling like it was going to be a different piece of media, but it ended up being a comic. like I feel like it was at one point going to be like this short little animated thing, which it would work as, or it was going to be a book, which it could also potentially work as, because that would explain all the talking inside one's head. But instead, it became a comic, and I don't understand what I'm supposed to be getting from this. It kind of feels like it's obligatory.
Well, I do kind of get that because Marvel started out the gate with the Star Wars comics, Fast and Furious. They have like 6 or something monthlies. They there's all sorts of these like mini series that are coming out. And now it's like 3 years like down the line, and they're definitely running out of steam. A lot of these books they just sort of put out to like because they should, but not necessarily because they have it's not story driven. It's not we have a really interesting story to tell with these characters. We want to tell it. It's more of a like top down thing of we need to have a comic with Han Solo. Let's have him do a race. I can understand what you say in terms of like it feels obligatory, like it feels forced in a way. It doesn't necessarily feel like something that was like supposed to be written for a comic.
But here's the one ironic thing: they actually topped this with a one-shot. The one-shot they did a one-shot recently. The second Star Wars annual, they did. They focused on Leia, and they told a story, 1 issue. So it's not even like they can't do it. It's not like they don't have the talent or anything. It's just, for some reason, the lamest stories are getting greenlit now.
Allison?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't feel as strongly about it as Elijah did. I'd agree that they've kind of written themselves into a corner where you can kind of only explore parts of emotional arcs that we already know to take place. And with Han, that means his like changing feelings between being a guy who looks out for himself to someone who cares about the rebellion and will put other people first. I don't know that this is the. I don't know. Yeah, I guess this isn't the most engaging way they could have done that, and I'd agree. Like, I quite liked the figures that Brooks was doing. But I think the space, I think his people were good and his characters were good, but I think the space battles weren't as kinetic as they could have been. Thinking back to like Vader Down or something, like the space battles in that one, which were incredible, like really cinematic, and they felt real and they felt like space battles. Whereas this, it feels a little bit more like screenshots, I guess. And I'd agree. Like I think that a lot of the internal monologue stuff was reasonably strong, but that isn't really why you read a Star Wars comic. So they did a little bit of seeding that emotional journey in the actual story, but probably not enough. I can see Elijah's problem with it, but I don't know. I liked it for what it was, I'd say, but it definitely wasn't my favorite of the Star Wars batch so far.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as negative. Like, there's parts about this I really enjoyed. I haven't read like as much of the old Star Wars expanded universe in terms of like the novels or the comics. I've read a bunch of the new stuff, and I'm into the animated shows, but I haven't read a ton of it. So I really liked him doing a race. I really liked it. I read Greg Rucka's Smuggler's Run, which is a children's like novel about him and Chewie, and so like that was like okay, but I like this one a lot better just because it feels like it's more him. It feels like that journey feels true to the character of like, I don't want to do this, but this is like the only opportunity I'll ever have to like go into this amazing race. And there's a really sweet broad who wants me to do it, so I kind of want to do it. And it's just like, yeah, like I could totally get behind that. And I liked that it has like an end. Like a lot of these, like the ones they want ongoing and stuff, they don't like wrap it up. There's always like it ends on like a cliffhanger, or they go directly to the next mission. But I like the format of having like the book being about this race and trying to pick up these informants along the way, because the book ends when the race ends. And But like other than like those broad strokes, the art really brought it together for me because there is a lot of like Star Wars by numbers in a sense of like what the dialogue is and their reactions. Like you can pretty much guess it. So the art being really amazing like does it for me. I know you guys say that the space scenes are like static, but I like them. I think they're pretty good. Yeah, I mean, like there's some of the Star Wars, like the new Star Wars stuff that I like a lot. Like the Darth Vader one's really good. It super stands out because they're doing something different, right? A lot of them aren't like that. Like the Poe Dameron one, I was like falling asleep. The Lando one, I didn't like either, but I don't like Lando, so like that kind of makes sense. And like I kind of want to read the Chewbacca one because there's this really great artist, but like Chewie doesn't have subtitles, so like how are they gonna have? Okay, I'll get over it. It's just kind of weird. I'm actually quite surprised. Correct me if I'm wrong. That none of the droids have their own comic. How come there's no R2 and
C-3PO got one.
C-3PO got a comic?
It was a one shot though.
Yeah, it was one shot about the Phantom Limb, and it also got adapted into actually DLC for the Lego Star Wars The Force Awakens game, weirdly enough.
Oh man, yeah, you're like our like one of our Star Wars nerds. I think we're all Star Wars nerds here, but like just in different senses. So
Dungeon mastered for a Star Wars campaign or two, so I know way too much. I know way too much about Star Wars.
I just started a Dark Heresy campaign, so I'm learning lots about 40K. But that's a discussion for another time.
Oh, the Emperor.
Yes, for the God Emperor. Yeah, so I mean, this was kind of hammy and like, you know, they're doing the sort of like by the book thing you got to do, but because it was all around this race, I liked it and I went along for the ride. I know we're never.
I thought it was fun.
Oh, it's definitely light and fun. It's just there's not much else. It's like The Force Unleashed 2. It's fun, but there's not much else.
Yeah. So it's not like, you know, ice breaking, ground changing. What am I trying to say? Earth shattering. I'm trying to find it.
Yeah, but it serves its purpose. I don't know. I feel
I really liked this pilot character, and I feel like we're never ever gonna see her again.
Oh yeah, she was nice. I agree. She was a nice addition. That was good.
And they had all this like talk at the end about like, oh, you know, like you shouldn't go at it alone. It's good to fly with a community, and I was just like, oh, so sweet. So yeah, that got my heartstrings. But like, yeah, it's, you know, I'd recommend it for people who like Han Solo, but it's not like the greatest thing ever. The art was cool though. I thought the colors did a really good job. But yeah, like overall, like the new Star Wars comics, they're pretty like, if you're really in the mood for something Star Wars-y, like they'll take you back through those motions, through those feelings. They'll hit all the beats, but whether you like capture the feeling or not is like whether like, it depends a lot on how much you love those characters, how much you're willing to fill in between the blanks of those panels, and obviously how far the artist and writing team can take those characters and bring them to life. But a lot of these comics have seemed really, really very static. And just sort of like, I don't know if stale is the right word, but it sort of feels like it, because all of this stuff, like especially not the Poe Dameron ones, but all the Han Solo, the Princess Leia, the Lando ones, it's like 30-year-old content. Right? We know these characters already, so...
It's the problem of wiping out the expanded universe. They're having to fill in all the gaps, but they can't change anything. That was the one benefit of the expanded universe, was that while there were certain things they couldn't break, otherwise they basically were given free reign, which is how there was such a wonky quality state. You got great stuff and absolutely terrible stuff.
Yeah, and I also, like, I really like the idea that, like, Star Wars is a universe, that there is a lot of planets in this like galactic conflict, and there's more than just these like 3 characters of your Father, Son, Holy Ghost, Han Solo, Luke, Leia, right? Like there's more, and it's part of one of the reasons I really enjoyed the animated series Clone Wars, because they had stupid derpy episodes that centered around the droids trying to fetch errands, but they also had like really interesting episodes on Mandalore with like a Civil War type conflict, and so yeah, I was kind of hoping for some of that in the new expanded universe, but instead of just like picking and choosing the good stuff from the old universe and just like revamping it and re-releasing it, they're trying to like do new stuff but not actually do any new stuff at all. So it's pretty mad.
It's kind of DC New 52 for Star Wars, isn't it?
Oh my god, it totally is. Oh, Allison, did you get that?
Yeah. Sorry. Yes. Ha 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 ha.
You guys can't see, but there's like puppies on Allison's lap, and she's like half paying attention to us.
I am listening. But yeah, there's 2 dogs in the room. Well, my dog started bugging the other dog. Anyway, it's taken care of. But yeah, no, I was listening. I was actually going to ask if anyone was reading the Dr. Aphra comic, because I hear that one's good.
I started to, and I fell off of it. I loved Aphra and the Vader thing, but on her own, it's kind of struggling. I'm hoping that the Screaming Palace, or whatever it's called, will shake things up.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I find like she's very Gillen-y the way that she's written, which your mileage may vary on. I find, like his sort of trademark dialogue style. So I wondered how that one would shake out. And I wasn't going to read the Maul comic, but I heard that Aura Singh and Cad Bane on the subject of old expanded universe, or at least canon outside of the films. So I think I might have to check out the Maul comic now, because I love Cad Bane and Aura Singh. So those are some I'm behind on. But
did you see the story reel for Cad Bane and Boba Fett from Celebration?
I haven't yet, no.
I will send you a link when we're done with this.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's relevant to this comic. I'm on topic.
That is totally relevant. Yeah, no, I think that's a really good analogy of like the new 52 of Star Wars. I don't think it's nearly that bad. It's not nearly that bad. It's just like it's just okay. There's a lot of like it's alright, it's meh. But yeah, like the Darth Vader one was really good. But other than that, like I haven't had any, and like the main series is also it's also good, but everything else seems pretty like milk of toast, like lukewarm. Like okay, so it is nice, and especially like if you're missing that, you know, these characters in this world, it's cool. But I would like to see them like pushing the boundaries a little more. I'd like to see, there's some stuff like I would like to know about these characters that they're not filling in. I should check up on these, but have any of you guys read the Obi-Wan and Anakin comic?
I tried.
Oh, it was fine.
The
aspects of it that were the main storyline were not great, but I liked some of the, like, I liked reading it because I got it in like a dollar bin kind of thing.
It's very much that kind of yeah.
There were parts of it that I liked though. Like I liked the scenes with Anakin and Palpatine. Like I think they did a really good job of kind of exploring that part of the relationship, because it's so glossed over in the films, right? You don't get to see that relationship building. Like it's just his evil BFF all of a sudden. But the way that you can see Palpatine like manipulating Anakin from a very young age, I found that stuff really effective. And some of Obi-Wan's commentary on like how he feels obligated and not quite up to raising this kid that he didn't like ask to raise. Some of that stuff was really good, but yeah, that was like a few scenes peppered throughout a miniseries, so it wasn't a favorite.
Plus, there's actually the one downside that there's an entire young adult series that they did, first with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, and then a sequel with Anakin and Obi-Wan that did all of that for like over 20 books.
Yeah,
really?
like that one's not canon anymore.
One of the most popular runs.
Yeah, so like maybe I should check out those comics, but there's some interesting stories there. But Yeah, it's just like I've been getting these from the library, and I get them and then I read them and I give them back, and a couple weeks later I'm looking at these ones and I'm like, which ones did I read? Because they're all sort of blend together. They're like, except for the Darth Vader one, like none of them have their own sort of like vibe or style. They all feel very like branded umbrella content. That's not necessarily bad. It's just like I want more. I want more. Like once they gave us The Force Awakens and they like lived up to all of their potential and gave us everything we wanted. Okay, well now you got to do better than that. You can't just do A New Hope again. Like you got to give us more. So I'm hoping they do. I'm really hoping they do. But yeah, like it wasn't necessarily bad. It just wasn't earth-shatteringly amazing. But the art was really good. And so I was entertained. But I'm not like, when I see them and I'm like, oh, should I pick this up? I'm not like, and like I'm not buying them. I'm reading them from the library. So I'm not like super interested. So I don't know how well they're doing financially with the series like 3 years later when they sort of went through a bunch of their initial ideas. So we'll see.
And it's all like they're pretty expensive, right? The Star Wars ones are like the $4.99 comics, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why I stopped reading.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah. So here's a question then. Marvel knocks on your door and says they'll let you write a Star Wars series. Which character do you guys want to do?
Okay, so I'm not a writer, so I'd be like, call
this
my friend
is hypothetical.
Allison.
No, but this is a hypothetical situation. Okay, who would you want to read then? If they said, okay, we'll let you pick one and you assign it to someone else then.
Please let me do
what would be your number one?
Okay,
Asajj Ventress. Let me do Asajj Ventress.
Ooh, good one. Good one.
I was going to say something really similar of like, I don't want to see the Jedi anymore. I want to see Sith, or I want to see like...
Or in between,
people,
Barry Sophie.
or like
Barry
people,
Sophie. She's been gone since the One Cut series. Sorry, shutting up. Sorry.
Oh, Barris. I'd read her too, yeah.
Oh yeah, that'd be a good one. These are all characters from the Clone Wars animated series. You guys should watch it if you haven't. Yeah, I'd like to see more in between, or we've been introduced to all of these different sectors of the galaxy. I'd like to see other characters live in those sectors. I'd like to see Han Solo's smuggler rival now being able to like do all this amazing smuggling because he doesn't have to compete with Han Solo because he decided to turn rebel or something. Like I'd like to see the Sith like planning, or like a story about how like a Jedi youngling sort of gets turned away from the light side and embraces the dark, and then continue with their journey through the dark side. Because there's been a lot of really interesting stuff, and we'll talk about it when we talk about the next book, about how like even though there is the light side and the dark side, not everything is black and white in the Star Wars like universe. And sometimes these like really lofty ideals like the Jedi Council and like the Senate, the like Republic Senate, like they don't do good things all the time. So I'd like stories with more of that gray, with more of that moral gray, and
it seems like you're getting that in Last Jedi.
I'm hoping. I'm so hoping, because it looks like it's actually going the same place. I kid you not, where my one role-playing group is going. So hoping.
Nice.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. I mean, like we've touched, like there have been times where they've touched up on that in like Clone Wars, and other comics, and stuff. So like, it'd be really cool. Or like they've like mentioned it offhand about like, oh, this guy turned to the dark side, and like, what? How did that happen? So yeah, that like they're telling the same story over and over. I want to see something a little different. I want to see them play with their formula. So yeah, and like in that sense of playing with the formula, everyone's like, oh, who's Rey related to? And I'm like, can't she just be gifted with the Force? She doesn't have to be a Skywalker. She doesn't have to be a Kenobi. Like, why? Why does everything have to be connected? But that's just like a personal thing of like, guys, there's like so many planets. Anyway.
Yeah, it's a huge galaxy.
It is! It's massive! Why limit yourself like that? Elijah, you should answer that question too. And then Allison, I want you to answer that. It's a good question.
Thank you.
If Marvel came to your door and asked you what story...
Well, yeah, you said Asajj and Barriss.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a theme here.
what about you, Allison?
Oh, well, I mean, Ahsoka, obviously, but beyond that, I don't know, because I was already talking about it. I had this like jokey idea for a story with like Hondo Naka and Cad Bane, and they like have to team up for some kind of I don't know, stealing something. But in the end, they both try to double cross each other, and Aura Singh just like leaves with whatever the bounty was. I'd do like a 5-issue miniseries with that basic plot. But I just like those guys. I think it would be fun to watch. Right? I think that'd be good.
Yeah. And yeah, like they've set up a bunch of really interesting secondary and tertiary characters that could be utilized for these sorts of things, and like doesn't necessarily have to be cleared with all these levels of where these characters are going to be in a certain time, because we need them in other comics in the universe, right? So
if Maul can have a comic, I feel that Ahsoka should have a comic. I'm just throwing that out there.
She did get a novel. I've started reading it. It's very good.
Yeah. Oh, I've read it. I just want more Ahsoka always, and I'm dying not knowing what happened after the season 2 finale of Rebels. But there's a lot of ground for her to cover. Like, that was so early in her life still, the novel, which was great. I did really enjoy it. But I'd love to see more ground covered between that and when she shows up again in Rebels.
And that kind of is that is the one thing I'll give Disney credit for, is that they managed to make characters stick more consistently, because like Rex and Ahsoka and all that, kind of a bunch of characters that all got smushed together from the old expanded universe, and I now in hindsight am very glad for that. While we lost a few things like Aura Singh actually being force sensitive, we've gained some characters who actually consistently grow. We've seen people like Saw Gerrera go from a bit character to becoming a movie character and stuff like that, and that's really good. If they can build up from that, then it'll all finally be worth it. They can make all that work, because back in the day, I mean, there were like 5 different guys who were off-brand Han Solo. The only one that was actually different was Kyle Katarn, and the big difference was he was angrier.
That's something.
Yeah. So it's
no, I mean, they've definitely got to have plans at this point. So, but yeah, I hope they do something like that. Because it seems too narrow-minded at this point. Like, just the whole what they're exploring in the universe seems pretty narrow-minded. And in terms of what they've released since Lucasfilm's been Disney, my favorite thing so far has been Bloodlines, the novel by Claudia Gray, and that was the only thing that really stuck out, and I remember that months later, because they, there was a lot of taking chances in that book. They introduced a lot of new characters, and characters started in one place and ended up in another, and it was really emotional, and you went on a journey with these characters. And one of the only familiar faces was the main character of Leia, but everybody else was different. It was a different setting. But yeah, it was so good. But yeah, I wish I could say that about the comics. The Darth Vader one's good, but I'd still recommend Bloodlines over it at this point. I don't know. I had such high hopes.
But speaking of Bloodlines, we need to follow them back, all the way back to an even longer time ago.
Oh, good segue.
Yeah! To the days
Republic.
of the Knights of the Old Republic. Hold on, I got digital for this one.
Okay. But basically, Knights of the Old Republic, it started off as this... Oh, there we go. It started off as just this one game. It was supposed to be a licensed tie-in game. It was either going to be the Clone Wars or it was going to be set way in the past. And they went way in the past, and it became this juggernaut because they could actually play with things. Because we're talking about how they're constrained. There are no constraints in the Knights of the Old Republic era. There was no canon at that point, so they could do whatever. So there was a comic, And that's what we're talking about right now, where a Padawan finds out that his particular, the particular Jedi branch of the Jedi Order that he's under, yeah, they're known secretly as the Jedi Covenant. They're dedicated to stopping the Sith from ever coming back, and they have a vision that their Padawans are all going to become Sith Lords, and also then see all of themselves die, so they decide to slaughter all their Padawans, and the only one that doesn't get killed is the worst one, Zane Karek, who, as a result, finds that there's a lot more ambiguity to the galaxy than just people who have red and blue lightsabers.
Yep.
Good summary.
That was a really good summary.
It was like a book jacket summary.
So one thing I'll say for, like, right off the bat, that I was a little disappointed with the art in this one. The artist switches a lot. I think there's like 4 or 5 of them amongst the 6 issues of like who's penciling it. The one at the beginning with this art I didn't like as much. But then there's like one that does the last 2 issues, and I liked those better. But overall, unless it's an anthology, if you switch artists like 2 or 3 times within your like first story arc, like it sets bad continuity, and it bothers me.
It is a problem with the series. That is one of the problems that they really could never keep a consistent artist.
And that's like one of the things that like, you know, theoretically they could benefit from being under like Marvel and the Disney umbrella, is like, now that you have all this more, like, have more money and more connections, you can have consistency. You can book artists for a year to do this story because you want it done right. But Allison, I cut you off.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to say, yeah, I also found it like that was so wordy in a way that it couldn't necessarily always fit the balloons comfortably over into the panels. So there was a lot of instances where I found that the art was like completely blocked by word balloons, and I was like, oh, okay, which wasn't great either.
That thankfully actually improves over time. The further in they get in the series, there was a lot to because that's the one problem of being set that far back, is that they had to unpack a lot, which was the problem. I will grant you completely with the starting arc.
Yeah, so like they're not really missing much action in this page, but this is a good example of like just it is pretty wordy. I'm gonna
That's not even that bad. There were a bunch of issues where they had the like people like half cut off, and I was like, geez, guys. But still, that just happens.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to skip to like later on.
It sounds like Elijah really wants to talk about this one though. Why don't you start us off?
Yeah, take it away.
Real enthusiastic.
Okay. The main reason that I love this series so much, beyond the simplified manner that it plays with, you know, someone who would otherwise be the comedy relief being the main lead, is that overall, over the entire arc of the series, and I'm going to condense and summarize a lot because I don't want to be going on forever, is that they go to some really cool, dark places. Because we've never seen a Padawan having to go up against his master, really, and it's justified. And the antagonist of the first Knights of the Republic game, we see him before the fall. And for someone reading the comic, they just know him as Alec. And you talk about the Mandalorians, this is where all of that began. Everything they reference in those episodes, this is where it happened. This was the Mandalorian Wars. This was when the Republic was almost brought to its knees by a single culture. And they explore that, and they explore the horrors of war. There are characters who die, and they're named, and they've been fully fleshed out. And they have all these different twists and everything. And even after they finally resolve Zane dealing with the Covenant, which takes a while and has some serious payoff for the finale, it actually does a full Star Wars-style finale, they then actually explore the idea of Zane not choosing to become a Jedi Knight. We instead see someone who has Force powers explore the universe and just try to do some good while working with his con man buddy Griff and Gerald. And they even explore racism with the Arcanians, with Gerald, because she's an offshoot. So we have this entire species that are basically racist to themselves, based simply on skin tone. So that's a very heady thing to bring up. They do all of this They do all sorts of things. They even have some Mandalorians who are sympathetic, even though they are destroying the galaxy. And you understand why everything happened in the games, and it feeds even into the second game where, you know, the Force is really getting buggered up. It, taken as a whole, it's probably one of the more ambitious and cohesive pieces of Star Wars Expanded Universe content that's ever happened. It's got a lot of great characters that grow over time. They're allowed to develop. I guess the best comparison would be, it's sort of like if you took Avatar: The Last Airbender and made it a bit darker, and say in the Star Wars universe way, way, way before anyone was named Skywalker.
Wow.
I
mean, I bought the Comixology edition of the Omnibus, which comes with like a lot of these comics, which is great. So I'm gonna keep reading them. But so far, it's really great. It is really great, and like that's one of like I recently, about a year ago, I played through like half of the KOTOR game. But then I had to reformat my computer and I lost my save and I couldn't finish it. I was also stuck on this stupid water world and I had to like do some detective stuff.
A pain.
And I just wanted to die. So I didn't finish that game. Next time I'm going to like there was like a Sith world. I'm going there first.
Actually, there's a mod to skip the first two planets so you can jumpstart right ahead. I'll let you know. So that gets you right off to just exploring the other world so you can be head right to Korriban and everywhere else.
Oh my god, you're a great games hookup. We will discuss that later. But yeah, I really like this idea, and they have a character in the games as well who was a former Jedi. And like, you know, and that was the first time I was like, wait, there's people who have like retired from the Force, like who are no longer Jedi, who still like are alive. And it really brought this idea of like, oh, well, the council isn't perfect. And like a big theme with this book in particular is like, oh, it's so great that like Jedi have these like Force visions where they can sort of see the future, but they can never predict if it's like actually how it's going to unfold. And so every single time that one of these Jedis or the council hears about like a Force vision, they deal with it the wrong way. Every single time. It's like, it'd be better if you didn't know what was coming. You would handle it better. You would just be better at it, because the conflict in this book is because they all saw a vision of themselves dying, and a guy in like a spacesuit, a red spacesuit, was doing it, and they're like, oh, all of our Padawans are wearing red spacesuits right now. It's got to be one of them. So why don't we just kill them all? Like, how? Anybody could be wearing a red spacesuit. Anybody. So,
and it turns into this whole self-fulfilling prophecy, and it
is. And so yeah, like I really like that idea that like even though these like Jedi hold like the highest ideals, and even though they're supposed to be like filled with peace and harmony, and they're not supposed to feel emotions, like obviously they do, and they're flawed and they make mistakes, but instead of like being human and being like, oops, I made a mistake, how about I fix it? They're like, I am a Jedi, so clearly this is the right thing to do, and I'm going to keep doing it. So dumb. Anyway, I like this book.
Yeah, that's something I find really interesting in Star Wars generally, is the idea that, yeah, the Jedi, despite being a sensible force for good, like showing how a lot of their practices, their imperiousness and their like really rigid rules and philosophies and everything can be so damaging. That's something that I just generally find really engaging in the Star Wars universe. So I definitely thought that was a cool thing to explain here. I don't have the connection to the game that you guys have. So I don't really have a connection to this part of the universe. I've never played the game. So this was all like coming at it new for me. So it was hard for me to like connect to any of the I guess the really exciting expanded stuff that they were doing. I didn't care for Zane. Gonna just throw that out there. I get what they were doing with him, and in theory, I wanted to be invested in him, but I don't know, man. He just like whined and complained a lot. It wasn't really my jam.
He grows,
but I'm sure he grows. That. Yeah, I think it would have probably helped if I'd read beyond this like arc, but I imagine that they could go some really interesting places with that character, though, based on where he kind of starts. But for the purposes of the first 6 issues. I was a little like, okay, that's cool, kid.
Yeah.
But that's how you got to start characters, right?
Mhm. I guess it's kind of like the Magicians in that respect, that it's kind of a rough start. Sorry, continue.
I feel like a lot of the like leading people in Star Wars are pretty like I don't know. When we first started spending lots of time with like Anakin, and we're like, gosh, these movies suck, and then you start spending time with him in like Clone Wars, and you're like,
Is that the
this
only
guy
thing?
sucks, and then he gets better. But no, Luke is boring. Luke is boring. Like,
Oh, I was
like,
making
oh
a
my God,
joke.
Luke's so
I was gonna
cool.
say, is Anakin the only thing that's wrong with those movies, though? Like,
no.
that's all I was gonna say.
It's much
The only thing
Ewan
that's right
McGregor
with those
is a really
movies
good
is the
thing.
music. We talked over each other. What were you saying?
I'm sorry, I was saying Ewan McGregor. That's the one good thing. That's the one good thing.
Oh, I said the soundtrack. So I think
that is good too. That is good too.
because
Yeah, I'll stand up for the
really
soundtrack. I'll stand up for the Qui-Gon Maul fight too. That seems pretty rad. Or sorry, the Obi-Wan Maul fight. Pardon me. I guess it's both of them. But.
Yeah, it was, and then they got rid of the spare. I would like to see more of him.
Yeah, like this character is kind of annoying, but I really like how lucky he is. I really like how he's like the most like unlikely person to be like raised to rank at the beginning, and he's the only one that survives, and like despite that he manages to survive. But I also think this book is really carried by that secondary character. What's his name? Like
Griff.
And like I thought he was gonna just be like a one-off thing in that first issue where they introduced that character. I didn't realize they were gonna bring him back and he was gonna become such an integral part of the story. But like, yeah, I really like these like shady characters who seem to be out for themselves but end up helping out anyway. Like Griff, like Hondo, and like, you know, they're always like trying to work a deal and like figure out how to benefit, but at the same time they're helping you out. So I like my Star Wars with a lot of gray. So these characters like really do it for me. And just the way they set up the
scoundrels.
Yeah, them scoundrels.
Yeah.
But just the way they set up the story, where it's so much a part of the universe, where a lot of what like they set the setting and they're talking about the Mandalorian War and how that's affecting how they're operating in the Outer Rim and what's going on at like there isn't a lot of scenes on Coruscant, but they talk about what's going on Coruscant. It looks like Yoda, but they don't say his name as Yoda. Or he took on a different name back then.
No, that's a different guy.
Like a million years ago.
Yeah, there's about 3,000 years. So I forget. Vandar. His name's Vandar. Yeah, he's one of the. There's like 3 known people of Yoda's species, and apparently Lucas knows the name of the species, but he's refusing to tell anyone, even Disney, what it is. So they just have to be.
Yeah,
oh yeah, that's Yoda's species.
In Star Wars trivia, if they ever ask you what Yoda's species is, it's unknown.
Thank you.
I do the trivia at Star Wars Day Toronto. And so yeah, like I like how there's a sense of scale. Whereas like in the Han Solo comic, they're talking about how they need to get these informants because if the list gets out, then all these informants.
What was the list actually?
The list was a list of like people who are informants who are undercover agents. I think.
But then what was the intel? They were at first they started talking about him having to get intel from them, but I don't recall them actually ever giving an intel.
So there's 3 informants left or something? But if there's 3 informants left, then why is it such a big deal to get the list if they already know that, like, I don't know. So yeah, that was a little confusing. But yeah, like it doesn't give you a sense of scope the same way that this book does. I don't know, it just felt more connected to the universe, but it also could be that because I know about the Knights of the Old Republic, because I played those games, I was aware of the scope more. But I just felt like that did a better job of it. Can you guys still hear me?
Cool.
Yeah, you're coming through.
Yeah, so like I feel like this is like the better art towards the ends, toward the end of the book. The last two issues I feel like have.
They do that. That guy, for the most part, does it from there on out, for the most part. But there are a few arcs where he got swapped out. Like there was a crossover one where they did a sort of time travel thing for one character where it got a bit off. But otherwise, they mostly, thankfully, stuck to the art from here on out. But there were still some alterations here and there.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I was like really impressed. Yeah. I mean, there's some stuff where it's like, this is an older comic. It's not like 90s old, but this is like late, this is like mid 2000s.
Yeah, I was a teenager when this thing was coming out.
Yeah, so it's not as dated as some, so it's still like readable, which is good. Because like people are like, oh my god, you should check out this like X-Men run from the 80s. And I'm like, no can do, buddy. No can do. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like a lot of like the extended Star Wars universe is really hit and miss. And I was really hoping with Disney behind it and releasing the new stuff that they would pick all the good stuff from the old universe and then just like retell it in their new universe. But it seems like they want to.
It seems like we'll get there.
Yeah.
I don't know. They're starting to integrate things, right?
They got Dark Troopers and Thrawn in Star Wars Rebels. There's been a little bit. There was even a nod actually to the Jedi Knight series in Star Wars Battlefront. The Briar pistol showed up. It's just there's certain things that fans want that they're very careful about. Like they will not let anyone touch Mara Jade. The guy behind Rebels went on record, and he refuses. Apparently, they refuse to let anyone touch her, and no one knows why. Although the rumor is that Phasma might be basically her reboot.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it seems like if they're doing that, hopefully that means that they're bringing her back in some other capacity. They have plans, capital P plans.
Well, yeah, she's getting a book, a comic, and she's popping up in the next movie. She's going to actually have more stuff than Vader does right now. Yeah, she's getting a comic and a book at the exact same time.
Are we talking about Phasma?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, okay. That I got confused.
Oh, sorry.
But that's cool. I mean, like we don't know anything about her yet, so there's a lot of interesting places they could go for her, I guess.
Definitely. There's potential.
Yeah.
Who's doing the novel?
I don't recall. Let me try and look it up real quick.
Yeah, I don't know. I was kind of hoping for something like that, like interesting like that with Poe Dameron, with that comic, because I was like, oh, this is cool. We've never like actually had
Delilah S. Dawson.
Oh, she's good.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
I like her stuff. I can't remember, but I remember liking her stuff. Yeah, I was hoping for like, oh, it would be really cool to see like a squadron of X-Wings and them doing like cool X-Wing rebel stuff, but I didn't like the book very much. It was kind of like, it was interesting, but the most interesting parts were like I feel like the villains. They had this agent Telex, and I remember his name, and I don't remember like a lot of the rest of Black Squadron. But also the art on that book was really good, so it's like I'm into it. So yeah, I'm hoping they do more.
Well, there is actually, believe it or not, there is a chance that one of Star Wars' biggest, baddest women as a villain might be able to come back because her father is now in the canon again. Yzane Izzard was actually from the old X-Wing books, and her father is now in canon as head of the Imperial Security Bureau. So there's a chance that they could actually, polish her up and make her be a villain at some point. That would actually be a really good thing to do, but it's completely anyone's guess if they're going to do that.
Neat.
Yeah, and like I haven't explored a lot of the old universe, so like I know of Mara Jade, but I haven't read any stuff with her in it. And so I was hoping they would bring her into the new universe, but after what you're saying, it doesn't seem like it's gonna happen, which is kind of sad. But c'est la vie. But yeah, overall, like I like Star Wars stuff, but I want them to go further. I want them to push their boundaries. I want them to go past their limits because from the old universe, we see how far they can go. And from even, the animated series, we can see how much they can play with what is good and what is bad, what is dark and what is light. And those are like the kinds of stuff I'm really interested in. And then if you have a space battle or a lightsaber fight in there somewhere, like, we'll all be happy. But it's got to have more than just that, in my opinion.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But overall, like, I really enjoyed, like, just reading these books and talking with you guys about it. But, and yeah, like, I'm going to keep giving the Star Wars, like, franchise, like, more and more chances. Because, like...
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of things...
stuff.
Yes. I'm going to listen to all of Elijah's recommendations. We can get so happy and so elated at things, and like certain people really like things, and certain people are very picky. I was very, very disappointed with Rogue One, and I know a lot of people loved it, but Star Wars can do better.
Can I be nerdy one last time for here?
Yeah, always.
Believe it or not, Rogue One, coincidentally, is based on one of the earliest Han Solo novels, which is also one of the earliest expanded universe things. Seriously, Jyn Erso, her original interpretation was basically the exact same thing, even down to Vader doing his thing, except she had a thing with Han. That was one of the oldest books. That's like from the 80s. I only recently found out about this. Apparently, that's where the whole story arc kind of came from.
Huh. Who knew?
Yeah, that movie's got, like, problems. I really, really wanted to love it. I really wanted to love it. I, like, went in so excited, prepared to love it, and then it just put me to sleep. So that was super disappointing. But there's a new Star Wars movie coming up.
Conversation for another day.
New Star Wars movie coming up, and I think they're on the 3rd season of Rebels. They're going to be releasing another season, and one day I will watch it. I'm getting so tired of Ezra Pritchard. He's the worst.
Yes.
Speaking of lead characters in Star Wars stuff, that
yeah,
sucks.
agreed.
Space Aladdin!
Oh
Space Aladdin! So tired of Space Aladdin.
Season 3 wasn't even that good of Rebels, to be honest with you. It was fine, but I don't know. I think it could have been better.
Yeah.
It seemed like they had so much potential when they were bringing Thrawn in. I was like, oh, this is going to be sweet. And then every episode, it was like, that was fine. There were like 3 really solid episodes. But in general, I'm just unimpressed with the character work on that show. Like, for me, I love Star Wars because I love I love how big the universe is, and I love all the things I can do. But for me, it's about the characters. Like, that's what I come here for. Because everything they do is so big, and they have to make such big decisions, and it leads to good, like, really good character drama. And I find Rebels, and I have friends who seriously disagree with me on this, so I know that this isn't a majority opinion, but I found the character work to be really inconsistent and just, like, not that engaging. Like, I feel like they don't know what to do with anyone.
Yeah.
Ezra sucks.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was really annoyed because season 3 opens up with, like, them escaping something, and Ezra's just, like, using his force powers left, right, and center. He's like toppling walkers. He's pushing stuff over.
And he's using the dark side too.
He's using the lightsaber, like all this stuff. And then like 2 episodes later, he's like, I can't get it to work. And like he's sucking at being a Jedi. And I'm like, how? Where is your character development if your character's like abilities keep going up and down without like any rhyme or reason? So
and all the dark side stuff just got dropped.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes, it's like they
I
were
don't
worried that
know.
we've only got like 1 more season left, so we have to wrap all this stuff up. So they rewound a bunch of things so they could fit it in. Though there is one promising thing for the dark side also. Have either of you heard about Star Wars Battlefront 2?
I don't play video games.
You're going to want to at least look up a Let's Play then, Allison, because here's the thing. It's going to center on a female Imperial pilot, starting at Return of the Jedi, and it goes into The Force Awakens. They're actually going to explore things from someone who is very pro-Imperial, and that's the thing. They made very clear that it's going to be like Star Wars TIE Fighter back in the day. There's not supposed to be a reversal. She is hardcore Imperial, and you actually understand why, supposedly.
That's fun.
No, it's great. And like honestly, the best Star Wars stories and like some of the best stories in general are the ones that take the absolute evil, the dark side, the villain, and like walk you through their journey and make you see things from their perspective and understand why they think they're right. And that's really interesting, and it's really human because, like, real life, there's all sorts of things happening around the globe politically, and then there are like modern day spies and fighters and stuff, and everybody thinks they're on the right side. Everybody thinks they're the good guy, right? So I really love those stories where they put you in the shoes of the enemy, and they make you see things from their perspective. And yeah, I like it. So I'll probably have to check that out too. I have a decent gaming computer now, so. But yeah, thanks so much for joining us for book club this week, guys.
Thanks for having us, Alice.
Fantastic. Yes, thank you for having us.
Have we had comments? Because I feel like we never checked in with that. Okay.
I was looking at them. I was looking at them.
All right.
Nothing seems to be there.
I guess no one is as intense as we are about Star Wars love.
Originally, I had posted it for yesterday, and then because it was better for you guys to meet today, I moved it. So it might be that everyone that was planning to join us yesterday, and they're all like outside today.
That's understandable.
But yeah,
that's understandable.
I want to do book club this month. I'm gonna put up a poll in the Quintessential Comix Facebook page. If you don't use Facebook, just comment on YouTube. I want to know whether you guys like sort of what we were starting off with this year, where I was sort of picking the Cultural Awareness Month and then basing the comic picks off of that as a theme. Or if do you want to go back to just like picking things like, oh, we're going to do a Star Wars month, or we're going to do spy comics and picking stuff as a thematic or genre theme in terms of like which comics we're picking to read. So I don't know what you guys would be interested in, but I want to definitely open that up.
I think both are good ideas. I don't see why you couldn't switch between the two of them. If there's like a month where it makes sense to do something, that's awesome. But it's good to have something in the back pocket in case there is itself to comic selections.
Yeah, because June is African American Music History Month, and I don't know many comics that really exemplify that.
Well, maybe it's time to ask people.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be up on the Facebook page, and then hopefully we'll announce a book club sometime later this week. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Alice.
Thank you.
And thank our viewers, and we'll see you next time on Quintessential Comix. Sorry, Elijah, yes. Allison, you guys should do your exit like bit.
Oh, okay. The plugging. Allison, you can go ahead.
First. I am Allison O'Toole. I edit comics and I write about them on the internet. I'm currently accepting submissions for a comics anthology about monsters. So I'm looking for women and non-binary creators to pitch me. You can find out more information about that at waywardsistersanthology.com. And you can follow me on Twitter at Allison M. O'Toole, which is ALLISON MOTOOLE.
All right, and
that's me. Thanks, Alice.
You go ahead.
Oh, that was it. I just wanted to put her thing up.
Okay. Hi. I'm Elijah Beam, known primarily as the Unabridged Gamer on YouTube, where I review ridiculously obscure games and try to give them a fair second look. And occasionally I upset the internet when I don't like something that a lot of the people liked. I also am editor-in-chief at Indie Gamer Team, where we cover all sorts of indie games. And we've even got a lawyer now giving advice on various sort of legalities with game development and stuff like that. And in theory, in the future, there's going to be some fiction coming, but I can't give any more details because that's all very nebulous right now. But you can also follow me on Twitter at @ParadigmFallen, no spaces, and no capitals. And yeah, you can tell me you are wrong. Uncharted 2 is a good game for all eternity. I can't stop you.
Yeah, and I'm Alice Quinn, the Alice Quinn on Twitter. Also, QCX Show is how you can reach the show, but message my personal Twitter because I barely check that. And yeah, you could definitely tweet me about how much you loved Rogue One, and try to change my mind about it. Go ahead. And we do all of our book club stuff on Facebook, but if you don't use Facebook a lot, just let me know. I have a couple people on an email list, and I email the details about the book club and the polls. It's just easier because on Facebook I can like interact with you guys and then change things. So that's how I do it. All right, thanks so much. We'll see you next time on Quintessential Comix.